Welcome to Ronathan Plays and Probes, where I bring you tabletop gameplay, commentary with insights, analysis, and opinions. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. Hey, welcome back. Alrighty, we are almost on our way to 100 subs. We are north of 50 and climbing, so let's keep it going. What I want to talk to you about is what happened last weekend, which was the Online Worlds Dice Masters 2020 tournament, which was put on by the CR Gameroom. Thank you again to the crew of the CR Gameroom. It was not only one day of competition, but it was 3 days of awesome competition where we had our main event on Saturday, a Friday side event, and two side events on Sunday that were helped out by the Dice Masters North crew and the Ministry of Dice. So once again, thank you to all who participated. Thank you to all who helped and organized. It was an amazing, fun, and fantastic weekend, filled with good spirited competition, good sportsmanship. So really appreciate this year's tourney. I was so happy to be a part of it. The three side events that we had, Friday we had a modified 10-10, 10 cards, 10 different sets modern event. They made a little modification to this. They made it a 10-10 -3. This was a really, really good modification. And what I appreciated about that was the fact that they banned the big three for this. So just a real quick statistical data to put up on here. If you look at all the win cons, we had 10 teams, but if you see the variety of all the different win cons, this was really good. I really enjoyed seeing all these different win cons with, hey, we're going to see Becky, we're going to see Thor, we're going to see Godcatcher in the main event. What else could you make your team revolve around? And so it was nice just to see all these different win cons out here with the most within 10 teams. You just had 3 Dannys on there and 2 of the other Becky Lynches and a couple of Poison Ivies. But other than that, there was great variety of the win cons, and this is exactly what I want to see. Just a quick future recommendation, maybe for 10-10 -3, banning suggested Clayface, Static Field, and Booker T ringside. Just a thought for the future. I'm not sure. However, though, I really just enjoyed this them just banning the 3 for that. So that was excellent and great. And along with bans, we also had Global Escalation on Sunday morning. And so Global Escalation already has ban cards. It's basically, hey, here's all the winning cards. You can only have a card that has a global on your team that has been a part of a winning team. However, though, they also banned all the Professor X's from Uncanny X-Men, so no more sidekick shenanigans and having all 8 sidekicks just in your prep area, as well as Clayface. So that made even that more even spirited. So the Global Escalation, and then the final side event on Sunday, which was just straight up golden, no bans. Except for the official WizKids bans, or just a few cards. That was just insane. Just, hey, let's get out turn 3, turn 4 kills, in which I had a turn 3 kill put on me in the finals against Joe. So that was fun. And hey, that's exactly what Golden is going to be. It's just going to be straight up turn 3, turn 4 kills, and just see like who could just get to theirs faster. So it was fun. Once again, just, hey, it was a great weekend. I really appreciated all the hard work that the CR Game Room put into it, especially with the main event on Saturday. So I want to get into is just the format of the main event. So it was 5 rounds. You had the best... it was just a best of 1, 35-minute rounds. If your match went to time, you went to turns 0 through 5, and which is just basically like a soft, or a hard or soft 10-minute timer, just to, hey, let's get our turns in. And after the Swiss, after the 5 rounds of Swiss, they had a top 8 cut. Top 8 moved on, played each other in a best of 3 55-minute rounds to eventually get a winner. As for me, not too bad. I finished 3rd in Swiss, so I went 4-1. That was definitely a beastly way to go through with my Thor Godcatcher team, in which I don't think I purchased Godcatcher the entire tournament. But but it was great. And I had a nice little slugfest with Mr. McCat in round 5 of Swiss to defeat him, only to face him in the top 8 immediately following afterwards, in which we just had 3 matches where we were just straight duking it out. It was a war of attrition, and Mr. McCat got the best of me, and he went on to the top 4 to face Ben, who took him down. And then Ben in the finals matched up against Yort, in which in the finals we had no Godcatcher and no Thor in there. It was just Ben's Becky Danny team versus Yort's Danny Moonstar control team, which was a really awesome and fantastic build, in which this just requires just delicate piloting. So hats off to Yort, hats off to Ben for winning the 2020 Worlds. So congratulations, he's gone back to back in the official 2019 Worlds and the unofficial 2020 Worlds. So hats off to Ben, and hats off to Yort for just straight up making a control lockdown Danny team. It was impressive. Me, I was a huge control player. You can ask Arj and all the SoCal people about that's usually that's my play style, and just seeing his team just brought me back just shades of the 2018 WKO between Arj and I, in which he and I faced in the finals. And this was where Superware Yanti and Cosmic Cube was all the rage, and yet I didn't have a super rare Yanti, so I had to figure out how to play against it. And so I developed this knobby lockdown team that didn't involve the collector at all. It was just straight chess move after chess move of, I'm going to get this piece, force you to get that piece, and so on and so on. So there's a great article that the archivist wrote 2 years ago on our WKO from it that I'll link here, as well as you'll get to see all the other teams below. So just Yort's Danny control team reminded me of that. So hats off to him for piloting that and just making that his only win con, which he also has the Black Widow on his other team, which is also a sneaky little win con if you could time it right. But hats off to him for using that. That was great. So just a little bit of data that I wanted to share with you, as like I always like to do with these reviews of the tournament. We had 22 entries, and before I do that, JackalopeSpam had an interesting breakdown of all the different win cons. So I'll go over like, hey, what are all the percentage of the win cons that were used? But he had a statistical breakdown of just like each team and what their exact win cons were, and then the win cons that faced one another. So it's an excellent article. I will link it to you below. You can click in the article for the full analysis, and then you can see the data spreadsheet on that, how he was able to extrapolate all that information. So yeah, hats off to JackalopeSpam, who couldn't participate because of his newborn, but it's just great to see, like, hey, you know, people who still can't participate still want to be part of our community, and that's what I really love about our community. So hats off to them. All right, so now into the statistics. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is some of the cards that were used. Okay, and so I have this little spreadsheet that I'm going to link as well to you below, that you can see, which basically separates out the win cons, the support and counter control, ramp and bag thinning, as well as control and removal. So that's usually how I like to approach and make my teams, and just statistically see where each card in the Dice Masters community fits. When you form your team, you're basically forming one of these 4 teams. I may expand this out and separate out in the future. We'll see. But here's what I want to go over. So let's go over the win cons. So out of the 22 teams, we had 9 Godcatchers, 8 Thors, 6 Becky Lynches, and the surprise was seeing Green Lantern come in 5. In the previous tournament, I think there was only 1 or 2 Green Lanterns in the Roll for the North. So it was nice to see that, hey, Green Lantern was viable. In the top 8, we had, I think, Peter's team, and we had Jordo's team, who ran a Green Lantern team, in which I had to face both of them. And Peter was, I think, my only loss in Swiss. And man, having to go back to back against Lanterns is just tough. So, but hats off to them for piloting, creating this Lantern team and making it viable against Godcatchers, Thors, and Beckys. So it's nice to see how that made a comeback. You'll see later in the control aspect how they were able to change the build around to make it competitive for this new meta now. So looking at our support and counter control cards, okay? So when I say support, these are cards that help you get to your win con, as well as counter control, in which, yeah, we have control and removal, but it's just to kind of stop your opponent to do something, i.e., which we have Asuka, that's the support, like, hey, she's going to help you get to your win con and buying your mass characters, but as well as under surveillance for the God Catchers, as well as Jerry Lawler for just doubling that damage with your Becky Lynch characters. But the interesting counter control pieces that I definitely see creeping up a lot more with the amount of static fields are out there is the nefarious broadcasts. We had 5 nefarious broadcasts in here, and along with that, effectively the same thing is Eddie Guerrero, which is preventing your opponents from using that static field so you can get rid of their energy, as well as we had Istrid Horn in there as well too. So these counter control pieces are creeping up. So if I add up the 5 Nefariouses, 3 Eddie Guerreros, and the 2 Istrid Horns, almost half of the teams were running some type of counter control. So this is definitely becoming more and more of a thing, as to where, like, hey, you need to prevent your opponent from spending energy on your turn, so you're going to run one of these pieces. So it's interesting to see that this is just creeping up more and more. Alrighty, on to our ramp. No surprise here with the ramp that Clayface is at the top. It is just super, I'm not gonna say super OP, but it is definitely allows you to get to your God Catchers, to your Beckys, to your Thors a lot quicker when you can have this Clayface. So it's going to continue to be a staple. I don't see any other ramp out there that is going to match this Clayface right now. However, though, coming in right underneath that is Villainous Pact. Just being able to control your bag as well as have an alternate win con in this is always going to be huge. Just making sure that you buy it before your opponent. Effectively, Villainous Pact and Atlas are the same thing. Just the added boost with Villainous Pact is that you can you can have a win con. The only drawback is that you can't have any dice in your prep area for that. So that's why it kind of balances out with Atlas a little bit, but Villainous Pact gets the slight nudge over that. So those are definitely just continuing to see like what our ramp and bag thinning trends are. In which, going back to the support and counter control, it was nice to see just the variety of, like, hey, there was basically no more than 6 support or counter control pieces on a team. So that's nice that we just have a really good variety of support and counter control in this game. We definitely need a bit more ramp and bag thinning. I mean, the top ramp and bag thinning options, again, are Clayface, Villainous Pact, Atlas, Collector just being able to move that sidekick. Underrated if you can purchase him on the Asuka team, so that's really good. But hopefully in the future we can get a little bit more ramp and creative bag thinning cards that are out there that will help just continue just to separate, like, hey, we just can't have, like, okay, who's going to bring Clayface, that type of thing, which is basically, when I was designing my team, I was basically like, somebody's going to bring a Clayface, so I don't need to put it on my team. And sure enough, I think at least like half of my teams, which is half of the teams in the tournament, had Clayface. So going now on to control and removal, okay? No surprise here that static field is number 1. This is huge and powerful, just like Clayface. Just be like, hey, most of the teams are just kind of like setting up to do damage to your opponent via Danny Moonstar, via Thor, via Green Lantern. So if we're going back and looking at, yeah, we had 8 Thor teams, we had 5 Green Lanterns, and we had 2 Danny Moonstars, in which only one of those Danny Moonstars was part of the Becky Lynch team. So you have 8, 5, 13, 14 teams that basically are going to want to run static field because of, hey, we're not doing combat damage, we're just doing direct damage to the opponent for either fielding characters or attacking with a character with our Green Lanterns and Danny re-rolling characters. So static field is still going to be taking the top. The next control and removal pieces, we have Black Widow from Infinity Gauntlet, Drax, Typhoid Mary. Gazer still up there. I mean, that 2-cost Intimidate is huge, especially a great hard counter against the God Catchers. Poison Ivy Red and Spider-Man Public Menace. Looking at the top, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. 4 of those came from the Infinity Gauntlet set. So once again, Infinity Gauntlet proving to be an awesome meta staple. It is a great set if you're on the fence still thinking about getting it or not, or you just want some more of those control pieces. I highly recommend you search them out because this is an awesome set, and hopefully the Dark Phoenix set can continue to provide balance with this meta. As far as that, there's always been the debate as far as like power creep, what's it going to be like. I think Dark Phoenix is going to add some interesting balance for everything. So yeah, interesting on here. If I look underneath Spider-Man Public Menace, I put Booker T ringside announcer. Before, I've always had him as support because, oh yeah, hey, he's going to support you to like force block and, allow you to do that overcrush damage. But really, this Booker T is about removal because you have a couple of different ways of removal, either with Becky Lynch, either with Danny Moonstar, or you're going to use him with Poison Ivy or a deadly character. So this Booker T ringside announcer is becoming even more and more viable as a great control piece. So if you're running Overcrush, if you're running Danny, this is actually a great card to run on your team. So yeah, so it's even looking more and more like a control piece rather than a support piece. And finally, underneath Booker T ringside announcer, I have Doctor Strange Celebrated Neurosurgeon, 6 cost. But really you're running this on an Oscar team, so that way he costs 4, and when you energize with him, that automatically allows you to spin 2 opponents' characters to energy faces of your choice. This is how Green Lantern has become more viable, is basically being able to have a control piece like this. It's not only control in the aspect of being able to spin your opponent's pieces down, but it is also a force attack. So since you're hoarding mask as a Green Lantern team, right, you're going to be static fielding a lot, and you're going to want to get that Poison Ivy out there. If you're going to, they're going to force attack your Poison Ivy, you're just going to static field and bring it back. However, on your opponent's turn, you're going to force attack, have their pieces force attack, and you're going to block with your Poison Ivy, and guess what? Automatic deadly because she's going to be engaged with a non-villain. So this has now made Green Lantern even more viable, is the fact that we have a mask force attack. So this is huge. So hats off to all the Lantern players who discovered this. When I was running the Earth X Origins and I was running Lantern, I think I was just stuck just like, oh, there's something that needs to make this a little bit more viable. And I think this is the piece. So hats off to all of them. Once again, we have, looking at the control and removal, we have a great variety. On here, a lot of people are running control and removal in this meta because this is definitely important against just trying to slow down those other teams. You're not going to be necessarily able to lock down a Godcatcher, to lock down a Becky, or lock down a Thor, or lock down the Green Lantern or Danny, but you just want to effectively slow them down so that way you can get to your win con and you can win out before them. So once again, I think our game is in great condition as far as control and removal and support and counter control. We have a great variety that is happening in there. In the future, I would like to see just a bit more variety in the ramp and bag thinning and our win con. So hopefully future draft packs and stuff can support this. The one other thing that I want to touch on to you, wow, this is a longer video than I anticipated, is these hybrid cards, okay? And I'm wondering what makes these cards so great, these win cons. And so I just made a little thing over here as far as like, not only is something a win con, but it gives you a little bit extra, like Villainous Pact, right? It's a win con on its own, but I mean, it's a ramp on its own, but it also has a win con as far as like, hey, since villains are not in the meta right now, guess what? You can your opponent's only going to be allowed to block with a non-villain. So especially you catch those teams that didn't bring any villains, they're going to be stuck. Okay, Godcatcher, famous walking statue. It is not only win con, but it is a control piece. How? Because when it attacks, you can force something to block. so you can just get rid of pieces one by one. This was tough, especially by a match with Mr. McCat, where he just kept, where I got my Thor out, and then he would just like, Thor has to block, and then, Thor's removed, and then, okay, I got to roll him back in, but, oh man, my Thor's not rolling back in, and I think in like game 2, my Thor didn't come up 3 times, and in game 3, I think my Thor, like I got him into the field, and then he was able to get his Godcatcher out, and then he basically forced my Thor to re-roll like 3 times, and he didn't come up 2 times, and on the last turn he didn't come up at all. So so this is just an amazing one. Thor, once again, this is also wind control ramp. How is this wind control ramp? Because of the payable, you can discount. So you can buy that villainous pack for 3 instead of 4, or you can buy another Godcatcher die for 2 instead of 3. And especially if you both have Thors, guess what? You can just buy 2 Godcatchers for 2 if you have 4 bolts on your team. So I think that's what makes these cards even more viable in the meta, is the fact that these cards have they're not just whatever they do on their own, ramp, support, win cons on their own, but they add a little extra, which if you look down here on that Black Widow, the Widow's Bite, Yort ran that on his team, and that's sneaky when you can field and all of a sudden get your characters into +1 attack, along with just using that that force attack that she has. So once again, I just feel that some of our cards are in a great place. I like seeing these hybrid cards. I think I just want to see a couple more win cons, maybe one more win con out of the Dark Phoenix set that would have that would be just kind of be exactly like this, just to bump up the power boost. Because again, if you look at the top 3, they exactly have this. Godcatcher and Becky are win control, and Thor is a win ramp. So yes, those are definitely it. Where does this stand as far as the meta right now? Well, I made a little statistical thing about what I feel are the tier 1 and tier 2 support WinCon and WinCon support and counter control, ramp and bag thinning. Some of these weren't on in our tournament, but I just feel like, hey, this is just something that I'm just compiling for myself just to see where the game is at. I like looking at stats. This is just the fantasy football and behavioral therapist junkie in me that always has to statistically analyze data. So yeah, so I just want me to see it, extrapolate it, give me your ideas and thoughts, arguments, and I just love how our community discusses these things. So I think that these are important talking points for the future. So again, the meta going forward, just hopefully Dark Phoenix will bring out one more tier 1 win con. That's what I'm asking, so that way we can just get a variety. And it seems that, hey, at least Green Lantern has a way to creep up back from like maybe tier 2 to tier 3, hopefully into tier 1, and Danny's on her way to tier 1 as well too. So hats off to those cards for doing excellent in our tournament. Thanks once again. I think tomorrow I'm gonna actually be live streaming a Star Wars Destiny tournament randomly, just out of nowhere. Yeah, they're fan-made, releasing a set, so that's interesting. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks once again for your support, and hopefully we can get to 100 subscribers, and I have a video that I'm going to be doing that's going to be special for that. Thanks again to CR Gameroom for an awesome Worlds tournament. I'm hoping to crack the top 4, maybe the top 2 next time. We'll see. All right, take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.